alleged perjury, forged evidence, and a legal system that might be rigged in favor of royalty. Prince Harry's court case isn't just about privacy, it's about whether the rich and powerful are truly above the law. This is Royal Daily Report, with an analysis you won't hear anywhere else. Good day, viewers. Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your source for unfiltered coverage of the British royal family and the issues that matter. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into Prince Harry's tabloid lawsuit. A case that's far more complex and troubling than what the mainstream media is reporting. This isn't just about one prince's grievances. It's about freedom of speech, accountability, and a legal system that may have different rules for different people. Before we begin this critical analysis, please subscribe to Royal Daily Report and turn on notifications to stay informed on stories the mainstream media won't cover. Now, let's get into it. Music, okay? So you've probably heard about Prince Harry's court case against the British tabloids. I gotta tell you, it's way more complicated than just some rich guy complaining about privacy. It gets into the details of British law, and honestly, it's a bit of a mess. See, the UK doesn't have a First Amendment like we do here in the States. No freedom of speech written into their constitution. Instead, they've got this mix of European human rights laws that were basically forced in back in the day because nobody in Parliament wanted to be the one to officially vote for censorship. So, freedom of speech isn't really a right. It's more like a privilege regulated by the EU's human rights framework. That's the backdrop for this whole thing. Now, Harry's claiming the tabloids illegally obtained information about him, phone hacking, that kind of thing. And sure, maybe they did. But the thing that really bothers me is this whole woe is me act he's putting on. I mean, come on. Prince Harry has lived a life of unbelievable privilege. Let's not forget this is a guy who supposedly got into Sandhurst Military Academy even though he didn't meet the grades. There were whispers of cheating, teachers helping him out, the whole 9 yards. And remember the rumors about him never being drug tested in the military? It all smacks of special treatment. For years, Buckingham Palace has been his personal cleanup crew, sweeping his past drug use, his drunken behavior, his general bad behavior under the rug. Now that he's stepped away from the royal family and doesn't have that safety net anymore, suddenly he's crying about privacy. Give me a break. And here's where it gets even more confusing. This case is a huge deal, because in the UK, legal precedent is everything. Since they don't have clear freedom of speech or privacy laws, each court case sets the standard for future cases. And this judge, well, some say he's already bending over backwards for Harry. They're saying he ignored the statute of limitations, letting the lawsuit go forward even though it's past the deadline. And get this. Apparently, witnesses have testified under oath that Harry submitted fraudulent or forged evidence. That should have stopped the whole thing dead in its tracks, triggered a criminal investigation. But nope, nothing. That's the main point, right? Celebrities, politicians, royals, they all want to control their image. They want to hide their dirty laundry behind this wall of privacy, while only projecting a squeaky clean version of themselves to the public. It's about manipulating public opinion, staying in power, selling magazines, and Harry, with his carefully crafted victim narrative, is playing right into that game. And the media, they're eating it up. Poor Harry, breaking down in tears because of what the tabloids did to Meghan. It's all about Meghan Markle. Even though she wasn't even in the picture when most of this alleged illegal activity was happening. It's a distraction. Here's the thing. I'm not saying the tabloids are innocent, but Harry's not exactly a saint either. He's benefited from his position his entire life, and now he's trying to use the legal system to further protect himself. It's hypocrisy, plain and simple. And the real issue, the lack of clear free speech laws in the UK, is getting completely lost in the drama. And this whole thing about him never using an alias, it seems he was caught for that too. Remember Mr. Mischief? Apparently, he testified under oath that he'd never used that name or that he didn't remember sending certain texts. But the lawyers seem to have proof that he did. It's like, dude, come on. You're trying to tell me you don't remember if you used Mr. Mischief when you were talking to the very reporters? You're now suing. That's nonsense. And it gets worse. There's this whole thing about a book written about him and Meghan. Apparently, he secretly worked with the authors, but wanted to keep it secret. There's even an email where he tells his private secretary to pass on information to the authors and make sure Meghan's on board, but to make it look like they had nothing to do with it. I mean, seriously. So, he's clearly communicating with reporters through third parties, but he's claiming he hasn't. That's perjury, plain and simple. And if it was anyone else, they'd be facing charges. But because he's Prince Harry, nothing happens. It's the same old story. Remember when Meghan got caught lying in a written statement about her communication with those same authors? She claimed she had nothing to do with them, but then emails appeared proving she'd been talking to them for months. Again, perjury. But did anything happen to her? Nope. That's what's so frustrating about all of this. In the UK, People are getting arrested left and right for saying the wrong thing. They don't have real freedom of speech. And these celebrities and royals want to hide behind privacy laws to protect themselves from scrutiny. They only want positive press. But that's not how it works. You don't get to pick and choose which parts of your life are public and which are private, especially when you're in a position of power. We've seen this before with people like Jimmy Savile, that monster who got away with abusing kids for decades because the media was too afraid to report on it. They didn't want to rock the boat. They only wanted to say nice things. And that's what Harry's really angry about. He doesn't want the media to criticize him. He wants them to buy into his narrative. He's using Meghan's claims of racism and her supposed misery as a shield. But Meghan wasn't even around for a lot of the stuff he's complaining about. The media is focusing on the wrong thing. They're all caught up in the drama of poor Harry crying, but they're ignoring the real issue, the fact that the UK doesn't have proper free speech laws. The fate of free speech in the UK is basically in the hands of this one judge. And this judge has already ignored the statute of limitations, and is seemingly turning a blind eye to the fact that witnesses have testified that Harry submitted fake evidence. That's a huge deal. He should have reported it to the authorities, but he didn't. So yeah, I'm not buying the poor Harry act. He's a spoiled prince who's used to getting his way. He's trying to manipulate the system to protect himself, and the media is helping him do it. It's a joke, and frankly, I'm tired of it. The UK needs to get rid of those EU human rights laws and create their own freedom of speech law. But even then, what good is a law if the judges are just going to ignore it? That's what makes people feel helpless. So, what about the bigger picture here, right? It's not just about Harry and his feelings. This whole thing stinks of a system that's rigged for the rich and famous and against the average person. I mean, think about it. You or I get caught lying under oath. We're facing jail time, no questions asked. But if you're a prince or a duchess, suddenly it's all a bit more complicated. Oh, they didn't really mean to lie. It was just a misunderstanding. And it's not just the royals. It's politicians, celebrities, all these people who think they're above the law. They can get away with anything because they have the money and the power to make it happen. They hire the best lawyers. They manipulate the media. And they use their influence to silence anyone who tries to call them out. Look at Jimmy Savile, for God's sake. He was a national treasure, a beloved entertainer. And all the while, he was a monster preying on children. And nobody said anything for years because he was too powerful, too well connected. The media was afraid to go after him. They didn't want to lose access. They didn't want to be sued. So, they kept their mouths shut and let him get away with it. That's the kind of culture we're talking about here. A culture of silence, a culture of impunity where the rich and powerful can do whatever they want without fear of consequences. And it's not just in the UK, it's everywhere. It's in the US, it's in Europe, it's all over the world. But back to the UK, it's especially bad because they don't even have the basic protections that we have in the US. No First Amendment. No real privacy laws. It's all just up to the interpretation of some judge. And if that judge is biased, or if they're afraid of upsetting the powers that be, then you're in trouble. That's why this Harry case is so important. It's not just about him. It's about the future of free speech and privacy in the UK. It's about whether ordinary people are going to have any rights at all, or whether they're just going to be at the mercy of the rich and powerful. And the fact that the media is focusing on Harry's tears and Meghan's feelings is just ridiculous. It's a distraction. They're missing the whole point. They should be talking about the lack of free speech laws. They should be talking about the judge's questionable decisions. They should be talking about the fact that Harry seems to have lied under oath. But they're not. They're just printing sensational headlines and fueling the drama. It's like they're actively trying to make people dumber, and it's working. People are so caught up in the gossip and the celebrity drama that they don't even realize what's really at stake. They don't realize that their own rights are being taken away, that their own freedom is being threatened. So, what can be done? Well, first of all, people need to wake up. They need to stop paying attention to the celebrity nonsense and start focusing on the real issues. They need to demand that their politicians create real free speech laws, laws that protect everyone, not just the rich and powerful. They need to hold the media accountable for their biased reporting and their sensationalism. And they need to support independent journalism, journalism that's not afraid to speak truth to power. And in the UK, they need to get rid of those EU human rights laws and create their own laws, laws that reflect their own values and their own traditions. But even that's not enough because, as we've seen with this Harry case, laws are only as good as the people who enforce them. If the judges are corrupt, or if they're afraid of upsetting the establishment, then the laws are meaningless. So, it's not just about changing the laws. It's about changing the culture. It's about creating a society where everyone is treated equally under the law, where everyone has the right to speak their mind without fear of punishment, and where the rich and powerful are held accountable for their actions. That's a tall order, I know, but it's not impossible. It just requires people to stand up and demand it, and to stop being distracted by the shiny objects that the media keeps throwing in their faces. That concludes our special analysis on Prince Harry's court case and what it means for free speech in the United Kingdom. This case has implications far beyond one royal's grievances. It affects the rights of every citizen. Royal Daily Report will continue monitoring this case and bringing you the analysis the mainstream media won't provide. If you value accountability and free speech, subscribe to Royal Daily Report and enable notifications. Share this report with others who need to understand what's really at stake. For Royal Daily Report, I'm your host. Stay informed, stay critical, and we'll see you in the next report. Thank you for watching.